All right. And now I welcome on Olympic champion Cole Hocker. We got to do this in Paris, so like unpacking the actual race itself, like I like having that already sort of behind us because we sat down a day or two after the race. We have kind of those fresh memories preserved now, but in the months since, you've done a ton of really cool stuff. Speaking at Liberty University, getting shout outs on Rogan's podcast by Andrew Huberman, going to the Colts game, hanging with McAfee. So, of everything since the Olympics, like I'm sure it's been a whirlwind, but what have been some of the highlights?
Yeah, the Rogan thing was kind of crazy. Just not on my radar of things I was expecting. And just woke up one morning and people were like blowing up my phone, texting me about it. But um, most recently, getting the top floor in the Hayward Tower named after me was pretty cool. Yeah, they kind of talked about that as a thing in the past, but I was wondering if they were gonna go through with it, but they did. So that was really cool.
Okay, so what's on your floor? I just saw the photos because it was literally, I think, like yesterday or today that this all happened. What's on the ninth floor?
The ninth floor is like the actually like the top, like the observation deck.
Oh,
So I don't
really?
know how you get up, how like anyone can get up there, but I don't know, maybe talk to some people and try to get up there because it's pretty unreal view of Hayward and Eugene.
Um, so I saw that took place, but is it weird, I guess, like kind of just like how much your profile's blown up? Like when you cross the finish line in Paris, yeah, everyone knew that that was like a life-changing moment, but did you expect it to be this crazy?
I don't know. I don't think I like, yeah, I know like it's a life-changing victory moment, but you don't ever really know where that's going to take you. And I still think like, so many things are still unfolding and yeah, I didn't know how to prepare for this because I didn't know what to expect. Never been in this position and didn't really think about it too much because it's just, a dream until you actually do it. Um, but yeah, now it's just like now I'm looking to like optimize this and really, take advantage of that one race because it's so rare that one race can you know, define your life, I guess, or change the course of it maybe.
All right, so a couple updates since we saw each other in Paris. We ran into each other at the Grand Slam Track Athlete Racer Summit. Saw you there. We'll talk about that a little bit. But at this point, right now, like it's the first week of December. We're back to work already, right? Like it's preparations for the 2025 season. Like how hard is it to kind of put 2024 in the rear view when it's you're still in that year in the calendar, but you're already thinking of 2025?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's definitely interesting, but at the same time, when I go back to Virginia where I train and live, it's like business as usual. I'm around everyone that was there throughout the process of the past year, if not longer than the past year. And so it's kind of just, back into it, which is it's an interesting headspace, but I'm definitely just looking forward because now I'm really trying to like embrace being the best 1500 runner in the world and rise into every occasion and I want to run like that moving forward. But yeah, it's interesting and I can definitely understand. I've talked to obviously a lot of other Olympians and track and field specifically, and there's the Olympic blues, and it's kind of sounds funny, but afterwards it's weird because that's what you've been training for your entire career and your entire life, kind of, and no matter what, that date comes and goes, and um, even if you have the best day you can have, like I did the date is still now, I don't know what we are, 4 months out. Like it seems crazy that that's come and gone. So it's really interesting to move forward through that. But yeah, I'm really excited to go into the next year, kind of slated as one of the top guys.
How much of a break did you like allow yourself, like between the end of your season and then when you decided, all right, it's time to get lightly back into things. We see the videos of you on Instagram, like on the bike and, running, but how long was that break of sorts?
Yeah, I took 2 weeks off pretty much completely of running, which I kind of told myself, I'm like, I'll take 1 week completely off. And then I blinked and 2 weeks went by. And I was like, all right, I got to get back into it. And then it was just like slowly, it's kind of like maintenance runs, is how I look at it, just keeping the body moving how it should be. And then November 1, we kind of got back into a legit training block and base building.
All right, so we're here with the news that you're going to be returning to the Milrose Games. This time, interestingly enough, not the mile, 3K is the plan as of right now. It's the first week of December. Obviously, if things change in training, but we chatted before off camera, and you said 3K seems to be the plan. What excites you about returning to the Milrose Games? For what is really sort of like an off distance for you, but to
Mhm.
step up to the 3K.
Yeah, I love Milrose every year. I think this will be my third Milrose. I went there one year and was injured and had to pull out and sucked watching that. So I'm just first of all eager to get there healthy um but yeah, every year I've done it, I've started with that either 3K or 2 mile and just really I think it's apparent now that the build up for the year we know how to do it. And I'm so confident in that. And starting it with, I'll probably do a tune up at Virginia Tech before Milrose, which we can do now since we have a really nice indoor track there. Um, and then, yeah, get ready to just let it rip over a 3K. Because last year was, you know, that 2 mile world record attempt. And, he actually got it. And I was kind of just in the race. And I think now, like, by the end of 2024, I was a completely different runner as I was at the beginning, and I think I am, that same runner now moving forward. So I'm excited to see if who else would do the 3K.
Yeah, I'm sort of kicking myself right now for calling it an off distance. I forget you're a national champ at the 3K indoors, right? And then on top of that, yeah, I mean that 2 mile, you ran 8:05, where it was third in that race. So in the grand scheme of things, how does, when you sit down with Coach Ben Thomas, how does a 3K fit into sort of kicking off the year, getting stronger for the 15 down the road, where that will be your focus for, obviously US champs and then the world championships in Tokyo?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have run the 3K a good amount now, but it's still it's not, my favorite event, of course, as the 15. So yeah, kicking off with that, it's nice because um I'll go back, hold on. But yeah, starting the year with a 3K is just it's nice because every time I run the 15, I have all of these splits and numbers in my head that I kind of like hold myself to, and it's like a bit of a mind game. And so uh it's good to start with, yeah, more of an off distance, like you were saying. And then, that last indoor championships last year was also like my best indoor season I've had and the best indoor race I think I've ever run. Um, Milrose and the US championships. And so, yeah, again, just like so confident with, kind of our plan going into the season.
All right, for the people who are going to give both me crap, but also maybe you crap for like not running the mile. What's the case against maybe not running the mile at Milrose Games? Even though, like, yes, maybe the fans probably want to see you, Josh, Yard. I can think of a place where they'll see that 4 times a year. But, if they choose to do the mile at the Milrose Games, you're doing the 3K. What's the argument against doing the mile at Milrose?
Yeah, I think it pretty much just comes down to the trust in my training and coach. And, obviously I can decide what event I want to run, but, there's going to be plenty of times throughout the year where, people are going to get to watch the fastest milers in the world square off. And I'd rather set myself up for, a race that I'm training for at the time. And again, like I think I can run a really fast 3K. But that's kind of just the way I approach the season, where there's a time and a place to enter into my main event, and it's usually the most important ones, and I usually end up doing pretty well. So I want to run some off distances throughout the year, 800, 3K, 5K. So it's kind of, you don't get a ton of opportunities in pro track as it is. So got to take advantage of a really cool one.
When we're talking about, I guess, like running a fast 3K, is there any sort of like benchmark in your head of like, okay, I consider that fast? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth about just like chasing a world record because those are obviously like really tough, but like you and come outdoor season, like you've spoken about the 15 one. So are you thinking, sniffing something close to that for the 3K indoor?
I don't even know exactly. Do you know what it is?
I'm looking it up right now as we speak. Yeah.
I think it's low 720s, maybe 724 indoors, something like that.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. So it was Lemaitre Gurma ran it
Uh-huh.
7:23:81 last year, 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm well within, going after something like that on the right day, but there has to be a legit effort or a legit attempt at that time. You're not going to walk onto the track any given day and go after something like that. But that being said, I think I'm definitely capable of that, and it takes a race kind of being set up and run well, but all kind of just depends on where my my goals are lying, and it's like a lot of the time it comes down to would I rather set a world record in February, or, win the world championships and defend my title in September. So, there's a lot that goes into it, but um, yeah, I think I'm fast enough to, go after a world record in, a few events.
What what do you want to do next year is ultimately sort of like right now in terms of just as you are outlining plans for 2025 with Coach Thomas and your agent and all that kind of stuff. But so we've got Milrose on the calendar. You've got 4 meets scheduled already. It's already 2025 is already sort of taken shape for you. I mean, are there certain benchmarks that you're looking at for each one of these seasons as like checking boxes to ultimately get to Tokyo? How do you go about thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, this season is different. Um, it's set up differently than any pro season I've run so far. And, with Grand Slam, but also for everyone else because, the World Championships are that's the very last
So
race.
late.
Yeah. And so everyone's kind of in that same boat. And, I have so much confidence in getting there in better shape than everyone else that, I'm kind of excited about it because I think what benefits me the most is kind of timing, and that's definitely a lot with to do with my coach. Um, but yeah, I'm really excited. You know, I mean, Grand Slam will be really cool to race. The top guys again and again. But I'm looking. It's no secret this year. I wanted to make that 5K team as well. And it was just, I didn't have it there on my fifth race at trials. But I think I should, and I think I will this year. So I'm gonna have to get a 5K standard at some point. Obviously, I have the 15 already, but in the 15 will maybe not always, but right now it's definitely the focus. So I'm excited to go after both of those and make two teams for the World Championships this year. But there's a lot to unfold before then.
The 5K this year, as you've now had plenty of time to review like what happened at the trials and like maybe why it wasn't good on that day, what is it sort of that you think in retrospect? It's like, all right, if I would have changed a couple things here, then maybe I would have qualified for 2 teams. Or was it just sort of like, yeah, the 15 was hard.
Yeah, I mean, there's like few things I think of where maybe I can improve there, but especially in Olympic trials, there's more races. I think it'd be one less race maybe at USA's year. Um, but yeah, a lot of it is that kind of your nervous system takes a hit more than anything else. And especially when the Olympics is on the line and I'm defending my, Olympic trials title. And I just, it'd be such a big disappointment if I didn't make that team. And so it's a massive relief. And it's impossible. It's not impossible, but it's really hard to keep that same energy, then for another week almost. Where I think that, I mean, that's up to me and that's my responsibility as an athlete to, show that I can handle that. But also, I don't think a lot of, I don't think runners from any other country can relate to that because I mean, you're there and it's obvious the energy that's there and um there's no other meet that has that same energy. The Olympics is another thing, but this one is an energy mixed with, anxiety and kind of not wanting to let people down and yourself down and also wanting to perform your best. So it's a lot after 5 races um and then that 5K final, you were some of the best 5K runners in the world. And it doesn't matter you can't have a B performance there. You got to be on your A game no matter what. So it takes a lot to make that 5K team. It takes a lot to make the 15 team. So doing both is, I think this past year I kind of understood it more. Like I'm gonna have to get to that level to make this possible.
You have the blueprint now as to like what wins a gold medal in the 1500, and I'm sure there's so many people who could be like, all right, I'll run back the same exact thing and hopefully it results in just as good of an outcome the following year. But everyone steps it up, like, and levels up even in the tiniest of ways. Are there already sort of tiny little things in training that you're feeling with Coach Thomas that you're like, okay, like we're going to try this a little bit differently going into 2025? Is it more volume? Is it more speed? I don't know, like if you did the bicarb thing, but there's people who've played with that for the first time too. So,
Mhm.
are there any of these tiny changes already starting?
Yeah, I think it's kind of identifying these areas where, I believe you can always improve no matter how dialed you are. You can get more dialed, and I'm really excited to do that. And yeah, this fall is kind of about identifying weaknesses, whether it's mental or physical or you know based on training and attacking those areas. Yeah, Coach Thomas has set me up where he anticipated to coach me through multiple Olympic cycles, and so that really excites me moving on. Where from 2021, I watched our training evolve and change, and he kind of had the plan for that entire Olympic cycle. And um, yeah, that just really excites me moving into another one. And now knowing that, he has my age in mind, he has, my previous training in mind. And yeah, there's quite a few areas where I see myself, really drilling down on, and yeah, that's really exciting.
I remember your form in the 2021 Olympic trials and how like a lot of people talked about that afterwards. It's like, oh, when he fixes his form, he's going to be like unstoppable. And over the past couple of years, and particularly this past year, has that been anything like something that you've also looked at, or you're like, all right, if I fix this even a little bit, it's helped? Like, what do you see that's different maybe in your form coming down that final 200 of a 15 where you are stronger?
hmm Yeah, yeah. I think that's been a really cool thing to compare. Like, yeah, the 2021 season and slowly now to 2024 where I'm running faster than I've ever ran and I'm keeping it together. Because that it makes a difference. But I really think it comes down to just fitness, as boring as that is. And um, because when I'm hitting that wall and everything else is going, that's when my form goes. And I think I would just you know miles ahead in fitness this year compared to it like a season like 2021. And you know I vividly remember in that Olympic final staying on top of my form within the race and just throughout the rounds too, and kind of being like, oh, well, like I used to just have to, gut it out for this time, and now I'm running it, comfortably and controlled. But yeah, I think that a lot of that just comes from being really, really fit.
The conversations with Coach Thomas about now this fact that you're going to have to run at least four 800s, four high quality 1500s next year with Grand Slam. Was that difficult or pretty easy for you guys to look at this format and be like, yep, makes sense. Like this fits into our training. It's early enough in the year. Let's do it. I mean, what were sort of your, the idea and everything was presented to you, you were one of the first athletes to buy into it. So what appealed to both you and Coach Thomas?
Yeah, it's definitely a consideration. I mean, anytime a global championship is at the end of the calendar, you want to make sure the buildup is right. And yeah, we talked about it, but it was pretty quickly realized like this is doable. And not only is it doable, but it's gonna kind of play into my strengths. For a lot of the time in the year, we do a similar thing like that, where we can, get two really good efforts, do one after the race or the next day. Um, and it's kind of, it's not, 800 isn't long. I think, the 5K, 3K doubles might be a different conversation if I was thrown in that. Um, but yeah, this just looks like it really suits me. And um, if anything, like an area of weakness is that raw 800 speed where I know I have it, but I haven't got the chance to train to it. And so it's kind of going to force us in that direction a little bit. But you know, hopefully, hopefully I'm going to be able, I don't know if I can say this, but maybe might do a 5K, 3K at one of them, but we'll see.
No, I figured that too because it's like I've been calling them unicorns is the athletes who have like the versatility to jump between the different race groups. And I was like, oh, like Cole, I would consider a unicorn because you can jump into the 3K, 5K one at one of the slams too. So, that makes sense. With the addition of Marco being the fourth racer after the 1500-meter podium, I mean, it makes it so much interesting where it's like this
Yeah.
dude's going to drag you guys out pretty quick in that 800 and then however he bounces back or if the 1500 was first, when I saw him in LA and we'll put out an episode with him later on, he thinks he could run under 330. And so
Mhm.
that would put him sort of for sure in contention with you guys that I when people kind of hit at the format of the league, it's actually very intriguing the way you guys have to double and the athletes that you're up against.
Yeah, no, that was a really cool addition. And I was kind of hoping that would be the way that that fourth spot was filled. Um, and I'm sure the other four, there'll be some true
Yeah, if
800 guys.
Hobbs is going to come in and try and rob people's money. I'm 100% convinced.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Uh, but that exactly like, that's what I'm really looking forward to. Not being always pulled around, but competing for those 800s because I think I can, in the same way that he thinks he can compete in the 15s. Or, I'm not going to put an exact number to it, but I think I can run a world-class 800-meter time, which over the past year that's gotten faster.
Yeah, it's
But
become 141
yeah,
nowadays.
yeah, but yeah, I think I can put together a legit 800 too.
All right, cool. So over the next couple weeks, what is preparation for the indoor season look like for you? I guess, we're back to training. When does speed work actually start for you?
Yeah, I think kind of around. The new year usually is when that I kind of turn that page onto, dialing in. We call it getting specific. Um, and I realized more and more this past year that I just need to build that base. And I'm now just in the process of doing that and getting back into it. But never neglecting that speed. I'm always doing always doing quick stuff, but these specific workouts will start up here in a month or so. But um, yeah, I think it'll be just in time for Milrose to roll around.
Oh, I guess one thing I almost would be remiss to not ask you about is obviously you and Fred have been trading barbs on social media about this 600 race. You're going to need speed work for that for sure. But how does this
Definitely.
600 play out? in your head?
I think I take it from the gun. I gap him before 200. I keep gapping. The gap gets bigger and bigger, and then by 600, I don't know if I can see him or where he's at, but
That's how you see it. But then actually, I mean, what makes it a close race? Like when you guys, we're throwing it out there. Yes, some of it is partly joking, but then at the same time, it would be fun to see 600. What makes that race a race?
yeah, I mean, people were like, there was people on both sides that were like, obviously Fred would destroy it, and then there's people like, obviously Cole will win. So I'm like, so it sounds like it's a good medium. My thought process was, I can beat him in an 800. Should be able to handedly, and he should be able to beat me in a 400, no problem. So that was my logical, meet in the middle. But I guess we're doing it on the street. The city hasn't been named yet, but someplace hot according to his requests. So I got to think of a few, stipulations of my own, but
There we
we'll
go.
see. Maybe Grand Slam. And we need some event to set it up. So, Grand Slam maybe could do that or someone
I could
else step in.
I could see it on the street in Kingston, Jamaica while you're already there. Might as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, might as well.
There we go. All right, Cole. Well, looking forward to everything that you've got coming up this indoor season. Appreciate you taking the time for this, and I'm excited. 3K at Milrose. We'll start counting down the days.
Let's do it. I'm ready.